Number 1. Christmas has always been my favorite holiday. I'm 16 years old now, but this story took place about 8 years ago. Ever since I was 4 or 5 years old, I would try and wait up for Santa, as many children tried to do. I would always fall asleep before he showed up, and it always discouraged me, thinking that I missed seeing Santa again. Anyway, when I was 8 years old, I decided that I was going to stay up and see Santa no matter what. After my family had gone to bed, I snuck downstairs into the living room. I saw some presents under the tree, and a small battery-powered candle on the coffee table was giving the living room a faint orange glow. I went behind the couch and sat there waiting for Santa. A few minutes after I sat down, I started hearing footsteps coming from the kitchen. My little heart started racing. I was so excited to finally see Santa. I carefully peeked my head over the couch, but what I saw wasn't the big jolly man in the red suit. Instead, there was a tall, skinny man with a shaggy beard, torn up clothing, and heavy boots. He was carrying a black garbage bag in his hands. Being 8 years old, I didn't fully understand the magnitude of the situation. I think I remember being confused, since that clearly wasn't Santa. The man walked over to the tree and started taking presents out from under it and putting them in the garbage bag. It was then that I figured out what was happening, and my heart sank. Even though I was witnessing a robbery, I still kept quiet, thinking that I would get into trouble for sneaking downstairs. After he had gotten all the presents into the bag, the man started making his way past me toward the front door. The man put the garbage bag on the ground and started messing with the lock, trying to get the door open. While the man was fiddling with the lock, I heard a loud yell coming from upstairs. The man jumped and looked behind him toward the stairs before opening the door and sprinting out empty-handed. I ran to the foot of the stairs and saw my dad coming down. He ran past me and outside, screaming like a madman the whole way. The man was long gone, unfortunately. My dad came back inside, and after inquiring as to what I was doing downstairs past my bedtime, he called the police to report an attempted robbery. The cops came and took down my dad's description of the man and patrolled the neighborhood to make sure the guy wasn't still around. They came back with nothing, and we ended up going to bed a little shaken. We had a pretty good Christmas, but I remember everyone was a bit on edge because of what happened the previous night. But on the upside, at least we didn't lose any presents. Number 2. A few months ago, I was on my way to a Christmas party at my cousin's cabin. My cousin Bill lives in Phoenix, but he owns a rustic hunting cabin in the deserts of Arizona. The week before, Bill had invited me to a Christmas party there since it would be remote and we wouldn't have to worry about neighbors complaining about the noise. It was around 9 p.m., and I was about halfway to the cabin. I was driving down a remote road with desert on either side. With no streetlights, it was pitch black out there. I drove up a small hill, and as I crested it, I saw something standing at the bottom a few feet away. I couldn't make out what it was exactly, but it was big. When my headlights hit it, I could see it was a deer. It was standing in the dead center of the road. As I got closer, it looked at me. The sight of its face made my skin crawl. It looked like a cross between a human's and a deer's face, and it was incredibly disfigured. I was merely inches from running it over when it suddenly bounded away from me into the blackness of night. I had no idea what I had just seen, but I carried on and made it to my cousin's cabin a little while later. When I arrived, the cabin was decorated in bright lights and garland celebrating Christmas. I started talking to Bill and his friends, and casually brought up what I saw coming over. My cousin, who is a Navajo by the way, went completely pale. He told me I saw a skinwalker, and that it probably followed me here. Shortly after making that statement, there was a knock at the door. Bill and his friends grew quiet, and for a few minutes, there was complete silence. Then, the knocking came again. I was about to open the door, but my cousin grabbed my arm and quietly stopped me. As we listened, we could hear something clicking on the wooden porch. It didn't sound like boots or shoes, more like hooves. The knocking continued for a good 15 minutes before going silent. After a few minutes, Bill cautiously opened the door and peered out. He told us the coast was clear, and we stepped out onto the porch. We saw hoof prints in the dirt walking up to the porch and then off in another direction. We followed the prints for a little bit and walked around to the back of the cabin. We saw the prints decline to just 2 at a time, as if the animal stood up on its hind legs while walking. The prints trailed off into the desert, and frankly, none of us wanted to go down there, so we walked back to the cabin. The party was okay after that, with Bill double-locking the door and windows. After the party, Bill gave me some sort of totem to take home with me. He said it was supposed to keep the skinwalker away. Nothing has happened since, but I'm still very anxious, thinking I'll see those hoof prints outside my house, or see that monster in town staring me down. I'm just hoping that that totem Bill gave me does its job. Number 3. I worked as a security guard in my town's biggest shopping mall. It was around Christmas time, so the mall was decorated with garland, snowflakes, reindeer, and the like. I was one of the security guards stationed with the mall Santa, and my job was basically to keep the line moving and keep the people from crowding him. Things started out okay, and my partner Steve and I had an easy time keeping the people in check. However, around noon, I saw a mother and her young daughter in the middle of the line. The mother said something to her daughter that I couldn't hear, but it ended with her getting out of line and leaving her child behind. This surprised me. Who leaves their young child alone in a giant mall? Being a security guard, this made me keep a close eye on the girl to make sure nothing happened to her. Unfortunately, something did happen. As I was watching her, an older man, maybe around his late 50s or early 60s, who was standing behind her, started talking to her. That in itself doesn't seem too bad, but the man then started inappropriately touching her, like rubbing her shoulder or arm, and I could tell the little girl was getting uncomfortable. The man then took her by the hand and started leading her away from the line. I quickly told Steve to keep the line moving, then went after them. I caught up with them as they were heading toward the door. I asked the man what he was doing, and the man said, "Oh, she's my granddaughter, and I'm taking her home." I knelt down and asked the girl where her mother was. She told me she went to the bathroom. I grabbed the girl's other hand, and as I did, the creepy guy let her go and casually left the mall. I brought her back to the line and waited with her until her mother returned. I told her mother what had happened and recommended that she keep a better eye on her child. She thanked me for what I did, and that was that. I radioed to mall security and told them to watch out for a suspicious-looking older man who might still be hanging around the mall. They ended up finding him hiding behind a parked car, waving little kids over, and quickly arrested him. I'm very glad I was in the right place at the right time to prevent a child's kidnapping. What's up, everybody? This is the Lone Wolf here. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed these 3 Christmas stories. If you did, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications, and join the Lone Wolf Pack. If you guys want to send me a message, there will be a link in the description for my Gmail, so if you have any personal scary stories or creepypastas that you want me to read, leave me a recommendation, and I'll use it in a future video. There will also be links in the description for the music artists that I use in this video, as well as the specific tracks in case you're interested in the music. And of course, if you guys have any constructive criticism, feel free to leave me a comment. I'm always looking for new ways to make this channel better, and I welcome all ideas. Until next time, you guys, stay spooky. And remember, the hunt begins when the moon is full. Happy holidays.